Hey everyone, welcome back to the Betsperts Golf Sanderson Farms Championship preview. Ryan Noonan, joined as always here by my buddy Andy Molitor. Coming off of, I think we were just talking about it, not a great betting event, but a fantastic golf event. I love the team stuff. How was the President's Cup for you, my friend?
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun beating the tar out of the other team. Actually, it wasn't a little. Saturday afternoon was a little dicey. Oh no, are we gonna do the thing where we make this interesting? It wasn't really. Because there were a few singles matches where man, Sam Burns isn't winning. Scheffler's not winning. Some of the guys we were kind of depending on weren't winning. It was a little rough there for a bit.
Yeah, JT lost to start on Sunday, and there was a moment, I guess, and they had some magic. The international team had some magic, I guess you would say, on Saturday. I think come out of that, excited about the future of the likes of Tom Kim, and I think Cam Davis showed well, who'd been playing really well heading into it. But you look at Tom Kim got a ton of buzz. He was 2-3 on the week, so again, expectations.
Yeah, but no one's going to remember that. Everyone's going to remember the celebration.
For sure. Yeah. Same thing, Siwoo hushing JT in the crowd, which was good to see. But yeah, I love team golf. Hopefully some folks, we had some written content on the site. Again, Betsperts Golf is available right now for you for $1 per month all the way through December. So the all swing season, get all the access to picks and our subscriber only Discord. You can get all the tools and stuff. Really exciting progress on our tools that we've been working on in the off season. So some news coming down the pipeline on that Andy and I are really excited to share. So we're continuing to grind and build that out.
Yeah. Obviously just had some meetings yesterday with the development team and worked some of the new tools really coming along nicely. Gonna hopefully have some things definitely in place in time for when we actually get to the normal. Is it Sony or Tournament of Champions at first? TOC. You done the TOC? I'm not really, but I always watch that one too.
I know. They actually changed the rules with that too. I think that they're actually, you don't have to have won. I think there's some qualifications for some non-winners in there.
Well,
so
that happened
bigger field.
2 years ago, I believe it was Harris English had won it, and he hadn't won an event, but it was hey, we didn't have that many events because of COVID, so we're going to let some other players in. I'm fine with that. Make it a good field. But yeah, in general, we are just excited to be back to normal golf. We are at the Sanderson Farms Championship at the Country Club of Jackson. If you haven't had a chance yet, go check out Ron's course preview over at betsportsgolf.com. Pretty comprehensive. He goes through a lot of things, and the biggest thing you'll note, other than hey, we're not in California, took a little bit of a jump. We went from Cali to, again, a team event, but it was on the East Coast, back down to the deep South. Bermuda fairways, Bermuda greens, Bermuda Burns is not only called that, but he's the only good player in the field, the only player with win equity. He was on the President's Cup team. He should be a big favorite, but I am treating this like a horse race. It is, especially in the outright market. It is hey, this horse belongs at the top of the field. They should be the presumptive favorite. They should have this price, but I feel like there's some value in the field looking at it, and that's where it gets tricky, because there's 150 other guys, and boy howdy, this one's been a weird one over the years.
Yeah, it sure is. So let's start there, because Burns is one of a couple. Well, we had Munoz back out, so it's just Munoz and Bezaden who at this point that are rolling over from the President's Cup. Is there? We wouldn't discourage that, because I've seen some of that in the content space where it's oh, they're coming off of the President's Cup, so I want to discount them. Saw a little bit of that in the Fortinet analysis as well. It's well, I don't want to take anyone that's got the President's Cup on deck next week. Right. And that didn't work. Right. Because we had Max roll.
Yeah. Max was just class. That's where I worry about with Sam Burns. But at the same time, he played all 5 matches, never scored a point, by the way. And 3 of the matches went the distance. The other 2 all the way to the 17th. He played 88 holes of golf last week. And now comes to, let's just say it's a shitty event. There's still a paycheck. There's still a trophy, but I think this is probably a year heading into, the swing around, wraparound season. This is a year where he has his sights probably on bigger prizes. It's not to say it's like he's just going to slough off here, but if he did play poorly or looked a little fatigued, guess it wouldn't surprise me. And again, that's another reason where I'm looking a little further down the board for some guys. Smaller outright card this week. I'll have plenty of matchups. I'll do daily matchups, but I think I'm only going to have 3 or 4 outrights this whole week.
I got 3 so far, but I was with you. Like the Burns thing, I'm a Burns guy. I gave it a long look, but it was like Southeast kid, right? So we know Bermuda Burns. We know that he's going to be comfortable down here. He's defending the championship down here, but he is significantly in a class by himself, I think, when you look at the rest of this field. So that is a tough thing when we've seen really outside of some early season wins. When we've seen a lot of top of the board winners in the last couple of months. So that also, when you think of a guy that's really separating himself from the field talent wise and really in the market too, he's basically half of, depending on the book, basically half of anyone else that's in that next little shoot there with Sahith Theegala, Russell Henley, Denny McCarthy, who's shown up well here over the years, which is going to make sense because it's a putting contest really. And that's the struggle too that I found, and you and I were talking before we got going here, is handicapping this one. Like, all right, there's a very large plurality of approach shots from like the 150 to 100 range, right? And distance matters. But when you look at who's won here, we got Cam Champ and we got like Ryan Armour. Like, you could not have a larger discrepancy of who these guys are. So when it comes down to a place where it's like, all right, accuracy off the tee doesn't matter. Distance is an advantage. It's an advantage almost everywhere. The rough's not really penal off the tee. Greens and regulation are significantly higher than anywhere else. Very common. You got to make a lot of putts here. So it becomes a putting contest. We like guys that have some history here, maybe in the Southeast, but it's really hard to cap an event when you really can't find a single golfer archetype that's won here more than others.
Yeah, and I try not to limit myself to like, hey, I'm taking all this golfer archetype. But at the same time, I'm kind of talking out of 2 sides of my mouth, because I absolutely do run a model every week for like course fit. And it's a big part of what I'm looking at. A lot of it is in matchups as well, too. I'm looking for guys who just over the long haul won't shit the bed, won't have disastrous rounds. We'll be able to find some scoring depending on the scoring conditions. Should be easy. Winners on average going to be about 20 under here. And yeah, that was it was awful hard. I think your shortest price is 40 and mine, I don't have anything to the 30s. So, I mean, let's just right at the top of the board. Like we said, we're betting against Burns. We've seen it, the market come the other way against him at some of the sharper shops. He's up to 12-1 at Bookmaker, where he was down under 10 at a few places. The Postman, love him to death. I'm not betting him at 25-1. Theegala, another guy I like, not betting him at 20, 22.
Yeah.
And I think Scott Stallings and like Taylor Montgomery are next in the market at a few places, which, again, not the kind of prices I want on those guys. It's a crapshoot. Not saying any of those guys I just listed could absolutely win this tournament. They have the skill sets, more of a price play. The first guy I landed on, and I bet him yesterday, Small. And I like this number because I consider this guy, he should be right up there with the other guys. And I actually rebet this today because I found an even better number, but I bet Russell Henley over 30-1 for a guy like this. Seemed a little silly. He should probably be in that Theegala posting range. More of a price play, but he's a guy that I've continually bet too. I'm not sure I've had any success. It's usually, hey, I'm betting Henley at 100-1, 150-1 at like some big event, because I think his approach game is just always liable to like pick up 8-10 strokes on his second shot and find himself in some scoring. But again, it's I don't know if we have really good analogs for this, because a lot of the shitty if you want to call it like, hey, where are the birdie fests? A lot of them are up north. Like, hey, it's Bentgrass in Detroit, in Minnesota, or the Wyndham, or the John Deere, even down in your neck of the way. It's a little different, but at the same time, looking at some of those, like, hey, scoring conditions were easy and they were able to capitalize on it. Like, Henley has done that, and he's done it recently. He was 5th at the Wyndham. He was 10th at the Rocket. He was able to do, again, it's a whole different, we're going to all different kinds of agronomy and different types of courses, but I don't consider the Sony like a tough course. That is a tougher field, but he was second there, almost first. And the Houston Open last year, he placed very highly. And again, like the Wyndham, he's going to pop at the Wyndham. He's 2 straight top 10s there. Maybe I'm putting a pin in that for later in the year. But John Deere last year, 11th. The Travelers, and he can play well. Everybody's approach is going to be good here, but 30-1 at this. I really liked Henley in this spot, and probably going to play like shit, I guess.
It's so hard to not like, especially in a field like this where Henley's approach numbers, tee to green numbers are always going to be, they're just so good. All right. And if you can get even field average putting out of him, I think you're probably in good shape. It's a pretty decent number. Not been a great long iron player, which does actually pop here. It's strange. Like we don't have that like standard bucket of approach shots. You have a lot of like really close wedges because you have some really long par fives where guys are forced to lay up a little bit. So you get some of those really short, 100-yard wedges, but there's also a lot of proximity from 200, 250 plus here too. And that hasn't been great for Henley, but the rest of his game is so damn good. So
yeah, average length off the tee, but very high degree of accuracy, which you can say, hey, you guys said the rough isn't penal here. Does that matter? It still kind of does for guys like this who can control the tee shot and put it where they want. Because I said, like you just said, not the best with long irons, but if he's able to use that driving accuracy to put it where he wants to take the right angle on the second shot, that's going to be improved. And he hits greens and regulations at such a high rate. This is such an easy play. Like a 17 or 18 green and regulation round is definitely in the cards for a guy like him at a super easy course like this. So I like him. And then before we get to the one we matched on, I'm not going to spend much time on Denny. Denny's the best putter in the field?
Yeah.
Question mark? Probably.
Yeah. I think so.
Over a long haul, and like the rest of his game isn't bad enough for me to worry about taking him as what is that? The best number I found was 33. I said I'm probably not going to bet Denny McCarthy because he's going to be like 24, 22. Found a 33. Again, it's kind of the same kind of thing. Not the longest guy off the tee. Maybe even a little less accurate with the driver that Henley's still decent. Can have some hiccups, but he played well enough in Cali. Another one where it's like, hey, he went to the John Deere top 10. He can score at some of these these scoring fests like this. And if the putter gets going hot, like he's definitely in contention. He's played well in tough fields. Like it's a weird summer with the Memorial and the US Open top 10ing.
Yeah.
Don't expect that out of him, but it's more of a, if this putter gets hot, he's going to be 15 under at worst. So just not super excited about this one. Had to play it.
And then, course history buffs will love that too, because he's fared so well. He just rolled out of bed and he T20'd here. So yeah, he's obviously, and I think there's something to that. Like I don't say that to poo-poo course history because I do think that it does matter. I mean, I think that it's like the BVP stuff in baseball. It's like if you've actually ever played a sport, you golf or you played baseball growing up, there's some times where you're very comfortable against this pitcher and maybe you see the ball come out of his hand better. And it might be small sample theater. And we're talking about 4 rounds on one tournament or one course, every year. So you wouldn't think it's really statistically sticky, but I don't know. There's something to be said for teeing it up at a place where you're like, hey, I've had success here every single time. I know where I'm going to be left on these holes and I know what to do here on these greens. And, if Denny is feeling confident on the greens, he's going to be in contention. So don't hate that at all. How about some of these? And that's what we have here in the swing season. How about some of these Korn Ferry guys? Because I think we're all excited about the prospects of a Taylor Montgomery coming into the season. Didn't disappoint in the Fortinet coming in with the T3 there. Obviously, real nice Korn Ferry season. You get a lot of these kids in here. Any thought to when you see a guy like that that's in 25, 23 at Pinnacle? Any like 30 in some other places where we have guys that have fairly strong track record on the tour, like, Seamus Power, we have Adam Hadwins. These guys are, Scott Stalling, as you mentioned, Stallings absolutely shit the bed at the Tour Championship for some reason, but going into the Tour Championship was nails. And then you get this guy, Taylor Montgomery, who is just significantly shorter than all these guys coming in. So thoughts on on Montgomery or any Korn Ferry guys near the top.
Yeah, the market's getting too smart. I mean, a couple of years ago, guys like this would come in and they'd be 60, 70 to 1 because nobody really knew. But I think a lot of the betting market is following the Korn Ferry Tour more closely and realizing what's going on. And we've been spoiled with some of these young players, these rookies coming up playing well right away. I'm not all about it because just like it is a whole different game. Like, go win on these Korn Ferry courses. Yeah. And I will say this is maybe a decent analog to the Korn Ferry. The Korn Ferry courses, you're never going to have these like, oh, this is something we could be looking for the U.S. Amateur to play here or the U.S. Open. Like, it's not even close. Like,
yeah,
they're all, hey, we want scoring, we want a fun tournament, we want birdies, we want scoring opportunities. So maybe similar, but still the degree of difficulty, even in a bad field like this, is a lot higher than it is at the Korn Ferry Championship. And congratulations to Justin Sue. You won the Korn Ferry Championship, but you go to Fortinet and I mean, flame the fuck out. Played pretty poorly, especially on approach. And it's not something I'm jumping on. If I'm going to jump on the Montgomerys, and I call him Other Davis. I can't think of his name right now. Not Davis Riley. Other Davis. I can't think of his Davis Thompson.
Oh, Davis Thompson, yeah.
Some of these guys, Robbie Shelton, some of the guys like that. If I'm going to bet on them, I'm not betting them here in a bad field. I'm going to take them at a bigger number or a top 20 price in a decent field in a place where I think they can play well. And at that point, I'll have actually some decent PGA data on them to look at it. So not super interested in those guys. That said, I'm making some adjustments to my weekend plays, and I will be keeping an eye on those guys. Like, I have a list of like 10 players where I have super incomplete data on, and I'm going to pay close attention to not only their scores, but how they're playing. Maybe go back and look at how their round actually played out and see if it's, it's almost like a dive into a box score. Like, look, it's like, did he actually play well, or was it, hey, he holed out twice from the fairway or some bullshit? So those are guys I'm going to look at and have to do some quick upgrades for come weekend time when they end up in some daily matchups. But for now, I don't have any of those fellas on my outright card.
I took a stab way down the board with a highly volatile, don't call me Yu-Chen, Carl Yuan, who was available on FanDuel at 140. That instantly dropped to 75. It's still 130 on DraftKings. But when you look at like some other places, he's like 55 on Chris and like 76 on Pinnacle. But this kid can absolutely bomb it and is awesome tee to green. Cannot really putt, but his only Korn Ferry Tour win last season was actually in Louisiana. So think if he's going to run a little hot, he likes these Bermuda greens. But look at this guy. He played 21 Korn Ferry events last year. He missed the cut in 9 of them. Just hard to do.
But he also top 5 like 6 of them or 7.
He's 7 in 9 as well. So like he's all or nothing. So if he's in it, he makes a lot of sense. And there's some you like guys that can win. He's not afraid there on Sunday. So he's volatile. Probably not a guy you want to play in a ton of matchups. Maybe, if he makes the cut, that he's just in form and maybe there's a way to attack it there. Not like a guy for a finishing position bet, kind of an all or nothing guy. So taking a swing at what I think is probably a bad number. That's kind of what we're at here. Like if this guy can get hot and putt, the rest of it looks really good and he can hit it far.
Yeah, hits the piss out of the ball. He missed the cut, so he only played 2 rounds, gained 4.6 tee to green in those 2 rounds, still had a negative total strokes gained.
That's how bad the putting was.
Which means he putted very poorly out there on the West Coast.
Yeah.
It's one of those things too, though. Like if he hits the piss out of the ball and his proximity is close, maybe it's not so hard to putt when all of them are 6-footers. So I don't mind that numbers grab. That's a nice long price, and for sure, like the Korn Ferry guys we just talked about, shop around on that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our favorite South American though, because I haven't put my plays in the Discord yet because I was still finalizing them, but
I knew you'd be on it too.
Yeah, we aligned on Emiliano Grillo and
playing good golf, Andy.
Yeah, it is one of those things too where it was form. Like a lot of it was for him, and he's he's one of Andy's guys. Like I've bet on him a bunch, you've bet on him a bunch. I don't know what was the deciding factor on you. 40 felt long. Also, I thought he'd be like 30.
Yeah, I thought the price was good when you look at actually, like we were talking about earlier, that the rest of the field at the top. But yeah, and you look at form. I mean, he's going to give himself birdie looks. He's, Tina Green has been really good for a while. Really good long iron player. Outside of the bugaboo at API a handful of years ago when he did a couple water balls and then threw his iron into the water behind it too. Otherwise, pretty good long iron player. Again, like distance is fine. Like he can compete if he needs to go long here. There's really nothing in what I'm weighing this week that he rates out poorly. I guess not a great short iron player, but he's better than average in this field. So like, there's just nothing here that's
better than most.
Yeah, better than most. So, and the number, like you said, I thought maybe he'd be in the 30s or maybe a 33 or something like that. So getting a 40 on him, and he was out there at some places in the 30s. So getting a 40, I thought was a pretty good number for him. You can do it.
Yeah, for sure. Same kind of thing too. Like long irons are good enough. He's above average, not a lot, but a little above average off the tee. Greens and regulation numbers are good. Putting is good enough, and he's been better on Bermuda. And some of these, like I said, again, another one of these, like, hey, low scoring or high scoring, however you want to say it, lots of scoring opportunities, birdie fest kind of events. He has played well, especially recently, second at the John Deere and the 3M Open.
Corollary courses, like you were saying.
Played well at the BMW. Didn't play bad 2 weeks ago at Fortinet. Got the week off, and here we go.
The Fortinet thing is interesting too, because you look, and that was the first time in 7 events that he didn't gain on approach. But he massively gained on putting, but the putting has been in form. That's actually 7 straight plus putting weeks from him, as you mentioned too, with the 2 T2s in there and a nice T20 at the BMW. Like, so yeah, if he can do that and still get by and put out a T25 on a week when his approach game isn't strong, which is usually part of the strongest part of his game, I just feel like the form is good. Those are going to happen from time to time, some wonky weeks, but he puts it all together. 40 is a misprice. Obviously not an egregious price in this field, but yeah, he definitely can contend here. So yeah, I like that quite a bit. I'm glad you're on it.
Yeah, should be 30. And then yeah, from there they're all longer than that. We started we skipped around to Carl, but 66-1 on I feel like this is going to be your guy. I feel like over the next year, you're going to have him in like half your outright cards going forward.
I do like Trey Mullinax.
Aaron Wise Jr.
I wish Aaron Wise was in this field. He was in this field last year. This Mullinax. Yeah, I mean, like, what do we want here? He hits it a mile. The putting. He's a southeastern kid, so like familiar with Bermuda. So I feel better about his, his prospects of putting down here, and he can drive it. And his irons have been great. And you look at kind of how he finished the year. Coming off of 2 missed cuts, he won the Barbasol. Which wasn't great, but again, he struck the hell out of it and putted well. T21 at the Open, 37 at Rocket Mortgage, and then FedEx T5, T12 at BMW, all real surprising with, really almost gaining across the board, relying heavily on distance and great approach. So yeah, he's a guy that I like here, especially down in the Southeast, and again, thinking of places where distance is a massive advantage. This is one of them. So he's going to leave himself some nice short irons, and actually he's been doing that fairly well too. So he's 66 is a bad number. I think he should probably be in the 40s or maybe 50. So I think that's mostly what's out there now.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Like if you do want to take advantage of these good numbers, go over to betsportsgolf.com. It's $1 a month. You get into the private Discord. As soon as Ryan puts a bet in, you can go find it too, because some of these numbers don't last. Like you said, with Carl, he's down to 75. Yeah, I agree. Hits the ball a mile. Like it's going to be, I think everybody's outright cards are going to be like this. Hey, this guy hits the ball a mile, or this guy hits with accuracy and can find a second shot in for a close birdie. Or, I mean, honestly, Eagle chances are going to be tough here. You really have to be really strong off the tee end with the long irons. They are longer fives. It is a long course, but yeah, Mullinax fits that. And then this is my kind of gross one. I don't feel great about Adam Hadwin. I'm really selling it off the bat. But Adam Hadwin, I mean, he's a guy we've seen people. Why is he on so many people's cards all summer long at lesser numbers than this, in better fields than this? And then we're getting him down at the 75-1. I bet that's at Chris just now. Like, again, it's maybe the same kind of thing as Denny McCarthy. Like, he's not as good of a putter, but he's still a very good putter, and he's decent off the tee. Again, average distance, a little bit of above average accuracy, the way I look at it. Greens and regulations have been great, and he can putt real well. The knock against him is his form sucked at the end of the year. Played pretty poorly at the St. Jude, didn't play all that well at the BMW. Leading up to that, again, he putted really well at the Rocket, but the rest of his game kind of let him down. Only ended up 37th there. Really, his last good tournament was the U.S. Open, where he top 10. Had a very uneven year where it wasn't Bay Hill. Here, let me pull this. Oh, the Players. Yeah, Players, Valspar, Valero. Yeah. Three straight top 10s there through late March. But the beginning of the year was a little uneven year for him. But based on his skill set and the price in this field, I kind of had to take a little swing at Adam Hadwin, the dirty Canadian. He's not usually the Canadian I'm betting. It's usually a Svensson bet. But I've bet on him before. I'll bet on him again. And at 75-1 in this field, I like this a lot because I needed someone to replace. I wanted to bet Munoz, and he pulled out.
I think if you're running anything long form too here, he makes sense. I mean, you're right. I was thinking too, like, I know I bet him at the Amex. I know I bet him at Valero. And again, those were, God, I think Valero was probably 33 or 35 in a significantly harder field. So yeah, even the Amex is a harder field. So getting him here 70, yeah, you're basically getting that baked in because the form wasn't great to finish, but he still was making cuts and, like, I don't know. He's still a guy.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was completely flaming out. Yeah. He just played below average, and truthfully, like those playoff events, those I will say those are tougher fields than Sanderson.
Yeah, a little bit.
BMW had more. There's only one top 50 player, I think, in this, or something like it's pretty rough. Everyone's kind of off this week.
It's rough.
Then is that so? Your whole card right now is Grillo. I know you don't say the soft L's. I'm so determined to say the soft L's because he's of Latin descent down there in South America. But it is Grillo, Mullinax, double L's for you, and then Carl. We'll go Carl with 2 L's, and then I have a double L. This is my last bet, and this is a smaller one, but he is my Aaron Wise. I'm going to be betting this guy until he does something. And I bet him at really big. Again, I bet him at like 100-1 in good fields.
Yeah.
And this is another one where it's like 80-1 is a lot for Alex Smalley in a field like this. Smaller bet, half the size of the other ones. He doesn't have a ton of. I'm looking at like Bermuda putting stats. I don't have a huge sample for him. Obviously, he's a younger guy, but good off the tee, a little bit above average. Driving accuracy could be improved. Hopefully it does this year. But he's been good with his second shots. He's had some really nice approach days. And then going back to like the BMW, where he could have done a lot more if his short game would have been something, not just putting, but around the green, suffered greatly. Again, an uneven year. But again, it's a guy that he wasn't touted the same as some of these other youngish players. He's not super young, to be fair. It's not like he's 20.
He's 25.
Yeah, he's one of those where he's a little older. I still count him as a young gun, but some good performances again in some bad events. And I'm assuming you're having similar, like the Mexico Open. That was a newer one. That was like passable, I think, but still Southern events. He played really well at the alt events like Corrales. He played really well at the John Deere. He played well at the Genesis Scottish Open, which I did not see coming. And then we keep going back to the Wyndham top 20 there as well. He's a guy who can put himself in contention, His game is, good enough on approach. He's been good enough tee to green. He's just kind of overall good. Like he has overall, nothing suffers. Nothing's really popping like, oh shit, this guy's so good on approach, or, oh, this guy can't putt worth shit. Like it's his whole game is starting to improve slowly. And I expect him to be in contention with some, I'm not going to say like Alex Smalley wins the US Open, but I feel like Alex Smalley like wins the Valero, or Alex Smalley wins like Sony or something like that. I think he's gonna pull a Tom Hoagie and be a guy who, is talked about and maybe not important come playoff time, but is playing in the playoffs next year. So small bet on Alex Smalley, and that is my entire card.
Yeah, I like the Smalley look for sure. I considered it too. Plus distance approach is usually really good. The putting has been all over the place, but actually has improved a little bit. So you want to give credit to that maybe improving.
Yeah, and
just 25.
The Fortinet, he putted really well at the Fortinet, which again, completely different surface, but sure. It made me hopeful because he's had some truly abysmal ones last year. I mentioned the Valero. I mean, he basically putted himself out of there. Same thing at the Canadian Open. Like he was playing really well. He gained 11 strokes tee to green at the Canadian and didn't top 20 because his putting was so bad that week. And it's not every week. It's been uneven.
Yeah, he drove the ball real well that week too. Yeah, it's too bad. That's the thing I'm looking at too, is just he hasn't put it all together. Like even the weeks where he's just striking the hell out of it, even the Scottish, like he couldn't make a putt. Same thing like Canadian, as you mentioned. So yeah, I like it. I think 80 is a bad number, and like you said, we're betting him at 80 and 100 in field stronger than this. So I think it's probably a good way to approach it, because as we said at the top, there's really no like specific fit. We like to tie fit into form, and it's really hard to find form here because we're out of rhythm with the off season, basically the 2 weeks off. But some of these guys weren't even playing in the playoffs at the end, and now we have the President's Cup. So like form is really hard to bake in right now, considering we've had all this time. So yeah, that's it for me. It's going to be probably a light week. I might throw another dart down the board, but I'm not taking shots. I won't take a shot shorter than Grillo at 40, to be honest. There's some other guys that I'm considering, but nothing yet.
Yeah, I wasn't even super excited to bet guys in the 30s.
Yeah,
Henley and McCarthy. Final thoughts on your card? Are you going to be doing a fair amount of top 20, 30, 40, or is that going to be lighter this week too?
I think it'll be lighter this week too, just because we have no form and because there's such volatility in the event. I just save the darts to get right on football. How about you? You're gonna do matchups because you've been killing matchups, and then because you get more in tournament data helps.
Yeah, I'm still gonna do. I have like 6 or 7 full tournament matchups that I've circled. Still waiting. I always wait for Bookmaker to post theirs to kind of see how that the market finds a stasis on those. But I'll be playing those. I'll be playing some in tournament matchups. Probably later today, tomorrow afternoon, I'll have those up in the Discord, the full tournament ones, and then for sure tomorrow I'll have round 1 matchups. And my biggest goal this year is to figure out round 4 matchups, because that has been again a smaller sample. It's maybe not a big enough number to say like I'm screwing those up, but I actually lost money on round 4 matchups, and I made money overall on daily matchups, and despite round 4. And it was the same thing at Fortinet. Had a tournament where I won money, and round 4 went 0-3 again. Just something about my in-tournament adjustments isn't quite right. I may be at the point where I am running my numbers and seriously looking at every single matchup come round 4 for the next few weeks, and just determining what's wrong with my process. Hopefully I'll figure that, or just don't play those. If you're in the Discord and you like to tail, like just say, hey, and you don't know what you're doing, stay away. I almost just said F it on Sunday too. It would have been such a better call, but we'll get there. It's always
the rest of the matchups were so good, man. You were fire last season on the matchups.
Always working. Yeah. I was working on improving that sort of stuff. So, and with that, visit betspurtsgolf.com. Ron has his quotes article up. We'll have some more stuff up tomorrow. Ryan will have his betting preview article. Ron will have some stuff up for DFS, and check out the site. We have the optimizer. We have the tools. We have more tools coming. Hit us, and just join the Discord. There's even free channels. You can just go join the Discord if you want, and talk in some of the free channels if you want to just test the waters out. Otherwise, It's $1 a month. That's very cheap. It's not going to be $1 a month come January when we get to real events and we start to fire up some of the good tools. So get in now and start to get used to things. And yeah, Ryan, take us out.
I'd say, hey, you might have football by you this weekend. Are you going to go to Chiefs Buccaneers?
I tweeted that. I said I hate going to football games, but if it's I will go to a primetime game.
Yeah, you
so if there's a Sunday night game in Minneapolis, dude, last time they moved one of these games, they gave tickets away because it was such a last minute thing, and it was so hard to like sell them. Like, I'm willing to pay good money to go sit 50-yard line for Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes in Minneapolis. Right? It's just such a weird one-off that if it does get moved to Minneapolis, I said Scouts Honor. If anyone remembers that, I will go. So I'll go. But it's not that far from here.
No, I saw that last night. I'm like, I wonder. I got to ask Andy. I wonder if he's going to be going because it's pretty sweet. I mean, you don't usually you have to watch Kirk Cousins and Tom Brady or Kirk Cousins.
You could do a lot worse. Like, they're moving the Bears Giants game to Minneapolis. Like, why bring that evil here? But no, I mean, it should be a really good game, and if it comes, I'll be doing halftime from the concourse, I guess.
Love it. BetsBirdsGolf.com, at BetsBirdsGolf on Twitter. You can follow everything there. And $1 a month, guys. I mean, get over there. It is worth it. Like Andy said, there's free channels in the Discord. The $1 will get you access to all the channels. Again, like-minded folks that are, grinding alt events and swing season events. We're a weird group. So hanging out with like-minded folks is a good place to be. So for Andy, I'm Ryan. We will see you all next week. Thanks, everyone.